A recent study found that people with higher IQs are more likely to suffer from anxiety, depression, and insomnia. Meanwhile, those with average intelligence report higher life satisfaction. Today, we're exploring a fascinating paradox. Could being smarter actually make you less happy? Welcome to Temporally Scripted. I'm Jack Austin with Adam Garcia, and we're looking into one of society's most compelling contradictions, the relationship between intelligence and happiness, and knowing why more might mean enjoying less. From the pressures of perfectionism to the burden of seeing what others miss, we're examining how intelligence shapes our mental health, relationships, and life satisfaction. We'll break down the science behind the intelligence paradox, examine how it affects mental health and relationships, look at societal biases around IQ, and challenge our assumptions about success and happiness. Plus, we'll share some surprising research about who actually leads the most fulfilling lives. I suppose initially, what is IQ and how is it defined?
Well, from what I read on the internet, because obviously I'm a smart guy with a low IQ, so I needed Google to back me up. But it's called the intelligence quotient, and there are various things that it will test for and then give an overall mark. So we have verbal comprehension, perceptual reasoning, working memory, processing speed, fluid reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and memory.
Which sounds a lot like my conversation with the nerds in the local computer shops I had recently when they were building my new PC.
It's exactly like that. But does your PC now cover all of these things?
Well, it's not quite as good as a human brain. I heard very recently about a study of the human brain that said that its RAM was like 2.5 petabytes
Wow,
of data,
insane.
which is 2.6 million gigabytes. The thing I usually hear, so IQ is, as you said, it's over 6 different areas. I have a very high IQ in 5 of them. And then in one of them, I am an absolute, I'm going to be careful with my language because I don't want to get us banned, but I'm not very smart on one of them. But on 5 of them, I am very high on that metric. And I guess what people say is there's also things like EQ and street smart and all of these kind of things.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of today's conversation, we are going to talk about IQ.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I guess most people would be really high in some, lower than others. Or you could have someone who's like an autistic savant where they could be incredibly high in one of them, but everything else is low, but it balances out. Probably is like average or just over. Who knows?
Yeah. So I believe the average IQ is just under 100. So I think generally speaking, it's between 90 and 100. And it is that kind of curve where there's very few people at the low end, like 70 odd or whatever. Then it goes like to the middle and then it goes down on the other side. Do you know what yours is?
No, it's one of those things. I've never taken a test for it just because I don't know. I might do the test and results come back and they say, well, we're sorry, Mr. Garcia. We couldn't put an exact number on it. What we can tell you is it's somewhere between a chihuahua and a carrot.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I know what mine is, but I'm not going to share it because I don't want to make everybody jealous. And you can probably judge it by the size of my head.
Right. So I guess we're still in double digits.
Yeah. Joking aside, size of the head clearly makes no difference because apparently Einstein had a very small head.
Right. I heard that often cranial capacity would have an influence on IQ.
Is that because of like the Anunnaki?
Well, I guess it's just like if you've got a head so big, you must be filling it with something. I don't know.
Water. Extra water around the outside in a Simpsons-esque. That's the second Simpsons reference in 2 episodes, which means that we're definitely going to make it here. I think Einstein has a small head. Whether or not that makes any difference, I don't.
No, it's
Um,
all right. I've got quite a small head. Maybe I'm a bit like Einstein.
yeah, you could.
ChatGPT said there are similarities between me and Einstein.
Well, there you go. It's funny. ChatGPT also said that I'm like Tesla. So, but electric cars aren't that clever. Maybe that's what it meant. I think a couple of stories to start us off with. So let's look at both ends of the spectrum. If your IQ is less than 90, how do you experience life, and what is living like for you? And to put this into an example, if you ask somebody with a sub 90 IQ how they would feel if they didn't have breakfast today, imagine it's lunchtime, right? Or now,
Mm.
whatever time it's in the afternoon, and you ask someone with an IQ lower than 90 what they would feel like if they didn't have breakfast today. Their answer will be, but I did have breakfast today,
Right. Yeah, sure.
right? So there is no ability to imagine a situation that hasn't happened. They can't project the idea of a simulation of a scenario.
It's like abstract cause and effect. Or I've heard of this before where it's really simple cause and effect. Like if I drop this glass, it will break. That's fine. But things that are a little bit more complicated can be really difficult or just doesn't happen for people below a certain IQ in general.
Yeah, and I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine who works in the restaurant industry, and the staff that work in that restaurant tend to be on the lower end of the IQ scale. And it blew his mind when I gave him this story because he was saying that explains why when I try and train my staff on scenarios, for example, if this customer comes in, you should do this. Or if this
But the
situation
customer isn't
happens, you
here.
should do exactly. And it illuminated it all for him because he was like, wow, that's
Hmm.
crazy. Um,
Yeah. So in the US military, they do tests and they won't let anyone in with an IQ that's less than 83 because they say that no matter how hard they try, they can't make someone with that IQ not be counterproductive,
right.
which is wild because it's like 10% of the population or something like that.
If your IQ is less than 83, you're not even in a position to be cannon fodder.
Basically, yeah.
Wow. That's like investigating that end of the spectrum. And then coming to obviously higher IQ, if you have a very high IQ, then you can suffer from something called the intelligence paradox. Because intelligence often correlates with overthinking, with perfectionism, with self doubt, and also self awareness, which can increase existential concerns or general dissatisfaction with existence. And I think, as we discussed in the first episode that we ever did about do we live in a simulation? The question that popped up in do we live in a simulation was like something that you would only consider if you got a high IQ. And me and you said that almost can give you this existential feeling of shit. Is
Yeah.
everything me? Have I created all of this stuff? Which can be quite a horrifying feeling.
Yeah. It is wild, isn't it? But it stands to reason. So where people would maybe have a really high IQ and be the opposite of what we were saying with cause and effect and hypothetical situations, someone with a high IQ will come up with more weirder and wacky examples of this and oh, if this happens, this could happen, and blah, 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 and just completely cloud their mind with that kind of thing, gone wild rabbit holes of just never ending. Well, it could be fear. Um,
Yeah. And I suppose maybe even a loneliness in the fact that you know that nobody else is close to your level of intelligence. I believe Donald Trump's son, whose name escapes me right now
is
for
it
some reason,
Baron Trump?
Baron Trump, yeah, as well as being like 6'9" tall or something, has got like 160 something IQ.
Is that real or did Trump just say it?
Good point. That's a
He's a
very good
great
point.
guy.
Yeah, he's such a great guy. He's got such a good IQ. Just look, he's so tall. You can imagine being at that level of IQ, whether he is or not.
Mm.
Is that more uncomfortable than being right at the other end of the spectrum where you've got a super low IQ?
And just a lot of things don't concern you quite the same.
Yeah, because it's like that old thing, right? Being stupid is like sitting in the middle seat on a plane. It's uncomfortable for you, but way worse for everyone around you.
I've never heard that before.
But if you're like
Wow.
super smart, you're aware of the fact that it's the opposite, right? You're next to every middle seat on the plane.
Yeah, it's some weird paradoxical kind of nightmare of a Ryanair flight. And it is fact just the ability to reason and see things in such a different way. And I don't know. So someone who's say 80 IQ level, the way that they would look at a cat is completely different from someone who's at 170. What they think when they see a cat, are they thinking, okay, this is this kind of organism. It has, I don't know. Is it,
Yeah,
because
whereas the
I'm not,
80 IQ is probably thinking dinner.
maybe.
We're talking happiness today and intelligent and IQ quality against the happiness argument. And I believe that a lot of phrases in the world, they come from factual things, right? We live in a semantically constructed universe, in my opinion. And a lot of these things are a result of the language that we use, and a lot of phrases that we have are a result of things that we've noticed in life, right? And the phrase that comes to mind for me here is ignorance is bliss.
Because if you don't know about something, you can't worry about it.
Yeah. So if you've got a lower cognitive demand, do you enjoy life more because you don't overanalyze things?
Could it work both ways, though? If you have a higher IQ, you could get more depressed by certain things, but could you also appreciate the beauty in different things much more? On the whole, it could be more depressing if you have a high IQ, but maybe the moments where things are good, exceptionally wonderful, and it's a bliss for just incredible. But maybe for someone on the other end, maybe it's kind of that, but spread out all the time rather than just it being this wave of, I don't know.
Peaks and troughs. Yeah. So it's almost, you're describing it almost like it's an antidepressant in a sense, right? Because the way an antidepressant works is people have highs and they have lows, right? And the highs are really high and the lows are really low. And people that have depression, they experience these super low lows, particularly if it's something like bipolar or
Mhm.
similar, right? You're jumping from these emotions. And what antidepressants do is they limit that emotional field. So
Yeah.
you don't feel the super lows anymore, but you also don't feel the highs at that level. It's manic. That's what it is. Manic depression.
Hmm.
Because you have these times where you're really high and everything's wonderful and amazing. And then you have these like super low times where you can do
Yeah.
yourself harm or whatever. And antidepressants limit you in that middle area.
Yeah. So maybe it could be a little bit like that in some ways.
Is it then possible that those simpler lives are inherently more fulfilling? And if you've got a lower IQ, you're likely to have a more simple life. Do you think IQ is directly related to income, performance?
As in, people with a higher IQ are more likely to do better in terms of jobs. And
Yes.
I would imagine that to be the case. They would end up in jobs that earn more money
Why do you think it is that intelligent people are more prone to anxiety and depression?
because probably they're better equipped to understand how bad things really are.
Oh God. Just let me get some tissue. Not that I have tissues in my desk drawer. That would be
Just for emergencies.
just for times that I cry at things that Adam says. So what
Um,
do you mean by that?
I haven't done any research or conducted surveys personally, But I would imagine people with higher IQs are more aware of what's going on in the world and also would be able to empathize more with some of the situations that are going on. So they might see some footage from a war or something like that, and it can really affect them, or they just might empathize with the plight of different people in different parts of the world. They might really understand the corruption that's going on in some places. They might understand how oppressive some laws are that are coming from the government, or how people are being controlled, or what's happening with the media and how it's affecting everybody, and social media brainwashing kids and all kinds of things. I think they'd just be more aware of more of this stuff and maybe have a deeper understanding of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose, is there an argument there that if your IQ is lower, you probably don't have as much time because of the kind of work that you're doing to see these things and to have time to know what's going on in other places around the world? Because I'm not saying that your job guarantees that you have a lower IQ, but there is a link to that, generally speaking. Like,
Mhm.
I had a friend who used to like taking jobs in factories because he could sit and have his AirPods in, or whatever it was at the time. It wasn't AirPods because I'm old as fuck, but whatever it was. Um, he would just sit and listen to knowledge, and he's listening to like Alan Watts and all of these different deep talks, because for him, he's I can earn minimum wage and just put stuff in boxes all day in front of me and not have to think at all. Or I can earn a little bit more than minimum wage in a call center, but have to listen to people's moany, complaining shit all day. So he would rather just do that. But generally speaking, the people in that factory are not as intelligent as the people in that call center, for example. And that's just from my personal experience, by the way. So I think it's one of these topics where people could get really pissed off about what you're saying. But the key is, I'm
Yeah.
talking from my perspective and the things that I've experienced in my life, because that's where I'm qualified to talk about this, right?
It is a really touchy subject as well. It's because, say, if it's sports, you'd go, okay, no one from the Sunday League football team plays for England, or no one from Portsmouth plays for England, or whatever. But
All
it's
right.
that would
It's not true, but all right.
really wow. I'm shocked.
Well, they were born there, but they don't play for us anymore. But anyway, carry
Right.
on.
But so no one has a problem in sports and go, okay, well, some people are just really good at this. And so they play for their national team or whatever. And it's kind of all right. And a lot of people don't. It's fine. Like, so I'm rubbish at football. I never have a hope of playing for England. And that's all right. But then when you shift it from sports to an intelligence test, it becomes quite a tricky subject. Because if you do have that thing as well, where even say the US military goes, yeah, we don't want anyone lower than this in here. It's like, oh, okay. So what does that mean for those people in society as well? And it's, I don't know, because if the government thinks you're not intelligent enough to, like you said, be cannon fodder, what role in society suits you or will be a good one?
Yeah, it's about to get worse than that with the whole AI taking out 70% of all the jobs that are available on the planet in the next 5 years. But that's
Oh,
another
that'll be
episode.
fun.
That's another episode further down the line for sure. Yeah, and I guess there's a question in all of this: is, are we, and we as in us, but also as in everybody, over glorifying IQ as the ultimate measure of human worth?
Because the thing is, yeah, because more than likely it isn't the ultimate measure of human worth or human intelligence.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
just a
because
test that's there.
yeah, it's like measuring it even in terms of other animals or other organisms in general, right? The way a dog sees the world or smells the world, for example,
Hmm.
that power that it has is way beyond any level of human power. So our only
Oh,
measurement of
yes.
intelligence is that. A mushroom's understanding of biochemistry in the way that it moves compared to us, for example. There are all these other measurements outside of humanity, but also even within humanity itself. Like, you would see that when you go to like villages or countryside areas in Southeast Asia, like you say, oh, people here's IQ will be less. That's true.
Mhm.
But also you can see there's a kid in the village who's 8 who can catch fish, prepare it, get it ready to eat, kill a chicken, pluck all its feathers out, bleed it,
Yeah.
gut it, and get it ready to cook. And then they do smash it to bits with a meat cleaver, but that's just
Yeah.
one of those things,
But
right?
at the
But
same time, probably really understand something about the system of nature and what's going on around them to probably quite a complex degree.
yeah, tribes, even how tribes can walk around a jungle and know exactly what this means or what this tree being at this stage means in terms of something else that they need to survive, or even the capability to track animals. If you put me and you in a jungle and you're like, there's pigs in here, track them.
I'd probably get killed by a pig after about
Yeah,
20 minutes.
yeah.
No.
I don't have an innate a capability to track animals, but surely our ancestors would have been able to do that, even from developed countries where there's been no need to do that for quite a long time.
Yeah, completely. And also with IQ, because of the things that it tests for. So some of it is things like, it's like the verbal side of it. Now, if you've not been to school, you haven't read a lot of books, you're not in a place where people use like a lot of words in their vocabulary, you're going to score lower on that. And it's the same for some of like things like math and all that kind of thing. So when we say that someone has a low IQ, we always think of it, oh, it's just this like natural thing, but it's not. A lot of it is taught. It's just the same as I could do like a memory test, but I could have a mnemonic system that's really good, which would give me like a much higher mark. But it's like, all I did was learn something. And
Yeah.
so all these things, and that's why you often think, oh, like low IQ individual must be terrible, but it doesn't, it's not like an innate natural thing. It's because of the way the test is structured. It's testing for some things that can be learned.
Yeah. Yeah. And humans are, I believe, one of the biggest things that we have. One of our biggest strengths and our biggest weaknesses is how adaptable we are to situations, right? And is that then the measurement of what IQ is really showing? But I would imagine we will find that the countries that have got higher IQ are the countries with the most, for want of a better phrase, westernized education systems.
Yeah. I would also think somewhere like Japan or some Scandinavian countries, but I'm not,
But
I'd be surprised.
I would still say that they have a westernized education system, and that's why it's not the best word to use. But what I mean is test all of these things that we do that were probably
Yeah.
done in Western countries first, probably. Okay, again, I'm generalizing, but I can't imagine the Japanese education system today is anything close to what it looked like 80 years ago. Whereas I
Yeah.
would say
Probably
that
not.
the English education system today is pretty much the same as it was 80 years ago, with interactive whiteboards and some more fancy bits and bobs, but
Yeah. But probably
generally it's
not
the
actually
same.
as good.
No,
But that could be a whole other episode.
but yeah, you
But
have Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, South Korea, and I would say they're all modern education systems, and therefore their IQs are going to be higher.
yeah.
And there's a few interesting measures in here. So there's another measure which is the top 10 countries with the highest intelligence capital index. And that is a very different list. So in this
Right.
list, which I guess reading it, highest intelligent capital index is related to money. I would guess,
Right.
like
Okay.
smarts by GDP. Yeah, it's a measure of a country's cognitive skills, education quality, and talent acquisition. And if you look
Right.
at it by that, it's USA, UK, Germany, Australia, Singapore, Switzerland, Sweden, Canada, Finland, Denmark.
Hmm.
But I think this proves a point in itself, how skewed all of this is towards developed nations with massive budgets and a shitload of money. But you could argue that both ways, couldn't you?
Yeah, it does make it tricky. And also as well, it's a lot of these lists as well, you get a lot of different things. So I don't know, I've seen like the UK ranked like 33rd in the world for IQ. I've seen it ranked higher, lower. And I think it depends who's compiling the list. I don't
Yeah.
know, or what precise thing you want to test for.
And as someone who lived in the Canary Islands, in you, Adam, I'm sure seeing British holidaymakers coming out there in the summer gives you a very different view of the average IQ of a British person.
Yeah, maybe it does.
I think that's it. I think intelligence can often become this like dividing line for elitism, really, which causes
Yeah.
resentment among those with average and lower IQs. And I would consider myself as someone with an average, roughly higher than average IQ, really. It's never done me any favors.
Right. Okay. Well, you could try an experiment. I don't know, but there could be a way to do it if the high IQ isn't working out too well.
Get a lobotomy.
You remember years ago, maybe. Remember years ago when we used to have leaded petrol or leaded gas for
Yeah,
folks in the
4-star.
US? Yeah. Apparently, because of that, it decreased IQ in the general population between 2.6 and 5.9 points.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently, it made people more aggressive as well back then. And it was the same with like leaded paint because we used to have like lead in loads of stuff. And that caused like an actual decrease in population, sorry, decrease in IQ across the population. Just see if you can get some more lead
Yeah.
into your system and decrease your IQ for a little bit. You'll be happier and it'll be fine.
And I suppose at the time, all that lead everywhere was probably helpful if we ever had the radioactive disaster on a Chernobyl
maybe.
scale, and your house is painted with lead paint, then, maybe that does help. An interesting question I did want to cover today is about intelligence and relationships. So some research suggests that high IQ individuals struggle more with empathy and with connecting with others. Can you see how that would make sense? Because what comes to my mind is Big Bang Theory, Sheldon, right? He's got a super
Mhm.
high IQ, but he's not very adept at relationships. And you can see all of those guys are like
Mhm.
super smart. And there's an exact correlation between the dumber ones in the show and how well they do with like girls and relationships and all of that stuff.
Yeah, which is probably how it goes in general society. Because because for one, if you wanted to find someone who was like of similar intelligence, or who would get your jokes or the way that you operate in life and things like that, it would become more difficult the higher up you go. Also, there's a thing that more intelligent women find men less attractive on the whole, because usually women do that thing, can't remember what we call it, is it like up and to the left or up and to the right? They generally look for someone who's taller, more intelligent.
And I think that this whole intelligence argument around that is because the way of the world, right? If you're too smart and you're too high up on this thing, then there's nobody that's going to be a match for you on both sides, whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah.
So
And so
it
it
does
kind
make
of,
sense.
yeah, 'cause again, it's like limiting choices and limiting the amount of like compatible people that might be out there, depending on what kind of relationship people wanted to have.
Yeah. So we talked earlier about traditional education, and we talked about tests and the tests maybe not being ideal because of how people are taught. And then maybe people are taught a certain way to pass these tests. And our schools and education systems really stifling creativity by focusing too much on these metrics.
Yeah, perhaps. Because I guess all of school is there to get you to pass this test. And the higher that you do, the more likely you are to go to certain unis or whatever else. Yeah, I don't know. And also, are we actually teaching the right kind of intelligence? Are we teaching the right kind of thing at school? I'd say that some of it is, but I think a lot of it isn't.
Yeah, I went to a school that was a very good school in terms of its measurements and metrics, and there wasn't a great deal of violence in my school. I know a lot of people, there's always fights and stuff, but I would still consider my school akin to a prison. It's like, it wasn't a place to bring out people's creativity and celebrate the differences in people and kind of push people down the routes that they most want to get pushed down. And I think the equivalent of choice was when we were 14 and choosing our GCSEs. It's like, oh, well, do you want to do business studies, geography, or art, or PE? You choose one. So
Yeah.
this is your choice now. You get to choose. You're still doing maths, you're still doing English, but for design and technology, do you want to do woodwork? Do you want to do electronics? Do you want to cook? Or do you want to make textiles? And this is the kind of choice of creativity
Yeah.
you get in school. And I think for a lot of people, it just doesn't work. And I know there's that old adage where people go, and you can give me your opinion on this in a minute, but people say, oh, school's the best days of your life. I couldn't fucking wait to get out of there, man.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan. There were elements where it was fun, but yeah, a lot of it I absolutely hated. And you just forced to do this thing with, with some people that were amazing, with some people definitely not so much. And you just thought, but I guess that's the idea of it. It's to force you to be an employee, to train you how to do that. And there's so many like useful things that they could teach you at school, but they don't really teach you about how the government works. They don't really teach you how to manage finances. They don't teach you actual psychology that could be really useful.
Yeah. And I think it's because you only have one teacher for each subject, and that one teacher has got to deal with 30 people. I do have this vision that AI is going to change this, and that everybody will end up being able to have their own personalized tutor that will move in the directions that they are supposed to be learning for their own goals, and not even goals, because you don't really know when you're young. I'm not even sure. I don't think I know now what I want to be as such. And I think
I
I
don't
was
know
told,
what, yeah.
I think I was told you should know that by the time you're 15 at school. I seem to
Yeah.
remember.
Or if
But
not, we'll
anyway,
get a careers advisor to sit with you and do
and
a
start
careers advice
decided.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like with AI, we may end up in a point where this can be done because it is just a problem of numbers. There's not enough for unless you get taught by your village or by your parents, there aren't enough people to teach.
And different students learn in very different ways as well, which that's the amazing thing with an AI. It can completely tailor the lesson to that student, whether that kid's better at reading things or watching videos or being like, or listening to words, whatever it is, but or through repetition, whatever is their best form of learning, the AI can just go, okay, and just do it.
Whereas what we've got now is teaching to the middle of all of
Yeah.
this. So if you're
So
at the very
like that
bottom,
curve that we said earlier with the people at, it's a similar shaped curve, but again, the people at the edges, it's not so good for that bit in the middle. It's catered to that.
yeah, which I guess is how it should be.
Yeah. Because in the past we didn't have an option, but now it seems like that option it could be here soon with AI.
Yeah, this is it. And I feel like that will be the thing that really changes it. I guess the other side of that sword, or that particular sword, is when AI gets to the stage that it's able to do that, will there be any point in humans learning anything?
No. See, this is it. It's like, I'm sure there will be a point. There will be a point to learning things because it's nice to learn things, but as in it's enjoyable. But for a lot of stuff, You just don't need to be qualified in anything.
Yeah, and is it almost it's like doing a crossword puzzle book, and you know that all the answers are in the back, and
Yeah.
you're sat there trying to figure out the crossword, and you're like, oh, what's this word? And then this little temptation voice in your head, you could just have a look at the back. The
Yeah.
answer's there. You tried. You're not going to figure. And instead of just sitting there and trying your best to figure something out, that someone has the answer already. And I feel like with education, me and my wife talk about this sometimes, and it is relevant to intelligence. Will there even be universities when my children are 18?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
With a lot of subjects, I don't see the point in having any universities now. Because think about it, and every government that comes in and then every country is, oh, education's the most important thing. It's really important, but everyone has good education. Cool. Well, why is it so fucking expensive? You know? But the thing is, there's some really good things out there. Even like him or loathe him, Jordan Peterson has started the Peterson Academy. Hopefully they'll get to a point where they can actually offer qualifications through there. They'll get accredited maybe one day. But it's like, it's really cheap. You just sign up, you watch the lectures, you do the work, and that's how it should be. I think we should all just have that access to good education. It should be cheap. I don't see the point in going to university, and it's different in different countries. But in America, from what I've heard, it's like $100,000 of debt that you
Yeah,
leave after doing your degree. I think in the UK now it gets to about 40,000 or something.
it's
You-
crazy. Yeah.
And what's the point? Just to go to a place and pay a lot of money. And at the same time, I think a lot of degrees, if you wanted to, you could do it yourself online and probably do it in half the time.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is even more of a contentious issue because the way that the university system in the UK is propped up is mostly by foreign students coming in and being paid, like being charged
Yeah.
a ton of money. And when I was at university, I got put on a project with this guy called Quark, and the dude couldn't even speak English. He was lovely, right? Lovely Chinese dude, but he couldn't speak any English. And we're supposed to do a project together. And he's literally just being rinsed out so that his family can say that he went to university in the UK.
Yeah.
And it was Nottingham Trent University. It's not like
It's yeah.
I understand the point of going to university, even with subjects that are learnable online, is if you go to Stanford in the US, you meet loads of other contacts that when you launch your startup, you've got all these people that know each other. All the lecturers know all the previous business people that have made a ton of money. They can go, hey, mate, I've got this guy coming through my class. He's got this idea. Will you meet him? And he goes, yeah, I will. And it's all network. And that's the
Mhm.
same with Harvard Law and Harvard Business School and all of these, Cambridge, Oxford,
Are you
right?
saying it's not like that at Nottingham Trent?
And I got some great links for drum and bass and cheap ecstasy tablets.
Goes.
Some of the greatest minds were there trying to teach us business studies. It's don't get me started on people teaching business studies that don't own businesses. But anyway, yeah, so I get it from a networking perspective. I
Yeah,
get it.
completely how that would be different. Yeah, it's funny thinking about the AI stuff as well. So what do you think if you could choose the IQ of your neighbors in a place you were going to live, what IQ level would you choose?
Oh, that's a good question and a tricky one. So it's both sides. I'm having both sides the same IQ, or I can have a mix.
Yeah, it could be higher, lower.
I would personally take super low IQ neighbors, actually. Yeah, I would like low IQ neighbors because I like to be left alone. And I feel a quick hello, how are you? We'd be good. And also, like we've
Right.
discussed earlier, I feel like if you're super low IQ, you're mostly happy because what else is there?
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
What about you?
Probably about the same as whatever level I am, but a little bit less.
Right. Is that so you can lord over them and they know that you're smart?
so, so I might be able to outwit them slightly.
So you can invite them round for Trivial Pursuit. And it still feels like a challenge, but you know you're going to win. Game of chess?
Exactly.
Whereas I'm there going, do you want to play Trivial Pursuits? And they're trying to eat the cheese. That's
Do
brilliant.
you think? So it's like we're thinking of this range of IQ from maybe like the mid 60s up to 160 of this range between there, which is quite big. How do you think AI is going to want us as neighbors when something comes along that's got the equivalent of like a 2000 IQ?
Yeah. What even will neighbors be to AI, and will it be interested in existing in the way that we exist?
Will it want to exist anywhere near us, or will it want to let us exist?
Well, this is it. But again, this kind of alludes to the next episode, and we will wrap up shortly. But it does allude to that. Does it even think on that level? And what is the point of existence? And for me, I believe we all come from one energy source, whatever that energy source will be. And I personally think that the reason that we're all here is to experience things, right? Because the energy source cannot experience things. It's just what makes everything live, what makes the universe, right? So,
Oh, right. So like the universe made people because it wanted to experience itself. And that's why
yeah,
it,
yeah, or not even necessarily people, probably aliens on other planets and whatever, right? Everything to experience whatever it needs to experience, because how else can it feel, right? And I feel like maybe AI is just another layer to that.
mm,
Maybe we are already AI, as we touched on when we first talked about it. And I think it wraps it up nicely that IQ is a measurement, but how people experience things is so wide a range that it's difficult to even make a statement of what it means.
it completely is. And yeah, I guess it is a tricky thing to talk about, but at the same time, it's important to realize that we probably all have a different IQ level and are specialists in different things for a reason, because evolution in nature doesn't generally make mistakes. It's like everything's there for a reason, as it should be.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're there then at the relationship between intelligence and happiness turns out to be far more complex than we might have thought. We've seen how higher IQ can be both a blessing and a burden, how society often misplaces its values, and how we can't even really figure out what it means to be smart or too smart. And perhaps the real intelligence lies in not how much we know, but in how well we can balance knowledge with contentment. Next week, we're taking on another mind bending topic: when robots learn to laugh. So, this is going to be all about AI's serious and silly side and what AI means for us as existence and as humanity. We'll explore how artificial intelligence is changing our world, from the profound to the ridiculous. How has your relationship with intelligence, whether high, low, or somewhere in between, shaped your happiness? Share your experiences with us on X and leave some notes in the comments. Temporally Scripted will be back again. And if this episode made you think maybe too much, rate us, share us, and join us next week for another adventure into life's big questions.